Welcome back to Say No To Lashon Hara, Day 56. This entire series being done for the continued health of Chana Bat Simafega. And we've been learning about Kabbalat Lashon Hara. When someone hears Lashon Hara, how a person is not allowed to accept that Lashon Hara. That's not only when someone is hearing Lashon Hara, which is currently relevant, but also any type of conversation or information which someone was not allowed to say or would not be allowed to say over. So even if it's something about the past, i.e., someone's parents were a certain way, or that this person has a certain negative element of their intelligence or their ability to accomplish things, all of that is all part of Lashon Hara, which a person is not allowed to accept. However, as we've explained, that when it comes to a constructive reason, a person is allowed to hear Lashon Hara. So how does that work? If you're taking on a partner, or you want to go on a date, or you want to develop a project with someone, or you want to build an organization, and you're looking into working together with someone, and you hear some negative information. So what are you supposed to do with that? In fact, that was the whole point of allowing someone to ask those questions, because he needs that information. So what do you do now that you've got that information? Generally, you wouldn't be allowed to believe it, but for a specific constructive reason, we're saying that you are allowed litoelet. So if that's the case, what do you do now with this information? So the Chafetz Chaim brings this somewhat confusing idea where a person is allowed to act on what he knows, but not actually believe what he knows. Now, that's a very strange space. Now, obviously, with a little bit more time, you find out things for yourself. You might actually be in a situation where it's not a matter of belief, it's a matter of knowledge. But until that investigation happens, when you're in this interesting space where you're allowed to act on information without believing it, how does that work? So as an example, let's say you hear that at a certain place, they give prices that are inflated. You don't know that that's true, but you don't have to go shop there. The idea of these two things being simultaneously true, where I don't shop there because I'm protecting myself, I'm acting, but I don't believe it, is kind of confusing, because if you didn't believe it, why aren't you shopping there? What is this idea of protecting yourself, not getting into business with that person, not shopping in that store, not going on that date, if you don't actually believe it? So the interesting thing is that the Chafetz Chaim gives us a encouraging line. He says, if it was impossible to keep the laws of Lashon Hara, God would never have written them in the Torah. That means that we are capable of holding onto both of these things at the same time. An interesting example would be to think about it like putting on a seatbelt. Even though the chances of getting into a crash are maybe kind of small, still you buckle up because you want to be safe, you want to be sure. It doesn't mean that you think you're going to get into a crash, but still it means that you want to make sure that you're safe. If a person thinks about it that way, I want to make sure I'm safe. I don't know that this is true, and therefore I don't necessarily believe it, but I want to make sure that I'm safe. That is an ability, a balancing act that a person can achieve when it comes to Lashon Hara. And once that's true, even though I'm not shopping in the store, even though I'm not running that partnership, even though I'm not going on that date, I maintain my perspective towards you, nice to you. I don't believe the negative things that I've heard. So with regards to everything but the thing that might hurt me, I carry on relating to the person in exactly the same way. It's an interesting and a subtle thing, but it illustrates to us how concerned the Torah was with these laws, and how it guides us to be able to do things in exactly the right way, even if it's a little bit complex and nuanced. Isn't that the truth? Nuanced approaches to people